Reading this morning comes from Naomi Shihab Nye. It's called Missing the Boat. It is not so much that the boat passed and you failed to notice it. It is more like the boat stopping directly outside your bedroom window, the captain blowing the signal horn, the band playing a rousing march. The boat shouted, waving bright flags, its silver hull blinding in the sunlight. But you had this idea that you were going by train. You kept checking the timetable, digging for tracks. And the boat got tired of you, so tired it ramped up the anchor and pulled up the anchor and raised the ramp. The boat bobbed into the distance, shrinking like a toy. At which point, you probably realized that you had always loved the sea. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. So said John Lennon, of course. It's a bit of wisdom that may, for many of us, have the ring of truth at the end of this extraordinary week, as so much has shifted in the world around us. As we've started to come to terms with the rapidly changing reality that means our lives will never be quite the same again, and that there may never be a complete return to what we just a few days ago considered normal. Indeed, as epidemiologists and economists try to make sense of it all, we are being told that we will likely never be able to truly go back to before. Alongside the fear and anxiety, we are all carrying to varying degrees. Many of us are also contending on a personal level with plans that have been dashed and dreams deferred, and on a practical level, real worry for our loved ones and our neighbors, and for our own well-being or our livelihood. So much of what we only recently believed to be certain is now less of a sure thing. I don't know about you, but I am finding it hard at times to wrap my mind around or keep my mind wrapped around the countless ways the virus is upending our lives. More than once this week, I woke up and got out of bed and made it through a few minutes before remembering that we are in the middle of a pandemic. More than once, I got downstairs to make breakfast and glanced out the window and saw the bright crystal blue of a sunny morning, saw the buds just forming on the tips of the cherry trees in the backyard, saw the leaves of tulips reaching towards the sky, and everything seemed right in the world. And then it would hit me that I wouldn't be going outside today, not that day, at least not very far. I keep thinking I'm waiting for the train when it's really the boat I'm supposed to be boarding. We are living in a moment when it seems all bets are off, when so much feels uncertain, and when the way forward is not completely clear. And while all of that is true in many respects, we must never forget that it is not the whole of the story. It is nothing less than a great and glorious gamble to be alive on this little blue-green planet, circling a mid-sized star embedded in a swirling galaxy within a universe so vast we can barely begin to comprehend it. There is mystery and majesty and miracle in our existence, that against such long odds, we are here to make meaning of the wonder of life, to grapple with what it means to be human, and along the way to bear witness to the beauty and to the heartbreak of it all. This is the bittersweet bargain of being alive. This is the bittersweet bargain of this life. We are now, of course, at the beginning of a particularly painful chapter, as we are forced to face life's fragility, as we witness the strains on our social fabric, and as we worry about the well-being of everyone and all that we love, and which we probably have for too long taken for granted. We are in difficult days with so much that feels uncertain. And so this is a moment that calls on us to seek out what endures, to hold to what abides, to find what we can truly lean on and trust, come whatever may. While it would be easy to go searching for something solid, something sure and certain, what I'm speaking of is something else, something far more ethereal. For me, I call it the eternal. It is that which connects the stardust of my being to all that has been, is now, and ever will be. And when I feel bewildered by the world, it is that sense of connection that helps me to hold my little life in its larger frame and to feel an abiding peace in knowing that my being is a part of the whole. I think this is an experience available to us, whether we be theist or ardent atheists. Like the little girl in the poem learning to float, each of us can open ourselves gently and wide to the light year stars, lying back and trusting that the sea will hold you too. There is real life wisdom in that lesson so many of us learned as children in lakes and ponds and pools, to just still ourselves, to open, to rest, to trust, to stop kicking our legs and flapping our arms in some frantic attempt at control, and just instead to allow ourselves to simply be held in something so much bigger than we are. There are countless names that we give that greater thing, but the name matters less than our relationship to it. Our ability, even when things are hard, and especially when things are hard, to relax into it and to rest. I take as my teachers people of any faith who, past or present, have been able to do just that. I've shared with you before the story of a Christian mystic who predates the Reformation, a woman who died in the early 15th century in the east of England. Julian of Norwich lived much of her life as an anchoress, the odd title given to a woman who lived as a religious recluse. Julian took her name from the small church in Norwich, where she lived in a small room that had been built just for her. Attached to the outside walls of the church itself, the room afforded her what few women of her time, and even our own time, especially this past week, had. A room of her own, a place to think, reflect, and pray in peace and quiet. Julian is best known for a short declaration of faith that has been passed down through the centuries, quoted in books and emblazoned on bumper stickers. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. It is a powerful statement of faith, the words of someone with a tremendous sense of trust. It would be easy to dismiss these words as those of an extreme optimist, the naive ramblings of a misguided mind, the medieval version of the power of positive thinking, the banal assurance that it will all just work out, that everything will be okay. Don't worry, be happy, Hakuna Matata. Several years ago, my colleague Meg Barnhouse wrote a powerful song about Julian and her statement of faith. In the song, she asks Julian how she can possibly say that all shall be well. She presses her, don't you know about sorrow and hunger and shame? Don't you know about loneliness and disease and cruelty? She wants to know how she can assert that all will be well when there's clearly so much heartache involved in the human condition. In her imagined response in the song, Julian replies, nobody does not know about sorrow and hunger and shame. No one does not know about loneliness and disease and cruelty. And then Julian presses back, but don't you know that there is also tenderness and friendship and love that never ends? Don't you know that there is also tenderness and friendship and love that never ends? It is though she is saying, don't you know there are things that endure and sustain us, that we are held in a larger love, that there is hope knowing ourselves to be part of what is eternal. To dismiss Julian of Norwich as naive is to ignore the facts of her life. As a young woman, she lived through the plague, the Black Death, that wiped out the lives of half of her village. At the age of 30, she was herself on her own deathbed. She and those taking care of her believed she was near the end. A priest performed last rites, and yet she somehow still survived the ordeal. And in the midst of that experience, she had a vision so powerful, it became the focus of her life to understand it. The vision was the basis of her book, Revelations of Divine Love, the first book that we know to be written by a woman in the English language. In it, she speaks of God as mother. She sees suffering outside of God's will. And she writes about an ultimate reconciliation of all creatures, an early expression of universalism. This was cutting-edge theology for her time and arguably still is for ours. And some would still say that it is naive, but it speaks to me of a deep and abiding faith, a profound trust in that something bigger that holds us all. Born from the dust of the stars, we are all part of the great song of the universe. This, for me, is the foundation of my own faith. While suffering and illness and death are certainly part of the human experience, we are held in that larger story, a story that speaks of love and compassion, strength and courage, resilience and hope. To say that all shall be well is not to deny the reality of what is happening here and now, or what might be in the days ahead. It is a statement of faith, come what may, about how we will be and about how we will be through it all. It is a statement that says, while not everything may actually be okay in this moment, ultimately, all will be well. I invite you to live with this mantra in the days ahead, to take it into your bones, to let it move you to accept what is, to take in our present reality, and as difficult and daunting as that may well be, to find some measure of peace within these storms, to lie back in the water, gently and wide to the light year stars, lying back and trusting that the sea will hold you too. May it be so for us, one and all. Blessed be.